I'm joined in studio by Cornelius Oduor, Deputy Executive Director, Kenya Human Rights Commission. Thank you so much for getting time this morning. And as well, Honorable James Gakuya, Embakasi North Member of Parliament, and as well, Chair, Trade Committee in the National Assembly. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
We begin with a newspaper review with our own publication here at MediaMax People Daily. Splashes that another turn to eat for cabinet. Millionaires who found their way to power after deadly protest by brave Gen Z get second hand of the till as president reconstitutes government. That is on page 5 of the People Daily. Ruto Raila allies get fresh turn to eat. Called urgent and important by Harper's Magazine. Michelle wrong book on graft whistleblower John Githongo. It's a turn to eat is reviewed as a non-fiction political thriller in modern Kenya, which is an eye-opening account of tribal rivalries, perceived graft, and the rising anger of a prospect-less youth that exemplifies an Africa dilemma. This probably aptly sums up the start of the usual journey of the gravy train yesterday, when a cabal of millionaires wormed their way into cabinet amidst protest by brave young Kenyans who speak in truth to power, demanding good governance, clean government, and access to opportunity from an insensitive and opulent political elite keen to rob them their future. Cornelius, another turn to eat for cabinet is what the People Daily is splashing this morning. What do you make of these headlines?
It just confirms to you that we've got it all wrong in our politics as a country, because the perception out here is that these slots are not necessarily given for people to serve, to give service to the country, but is a political reward, which follows in the pattern of political patronage we've seen in this country. This kind of headings tells you that we have a constitution, but we are yet to get the character to fully implement the constitution. What would be an ideal situation is that people are called to service. And when we have this kind of headlines, it tells you that we have a lot to do in terms of our political culture as a country.
Is it a confirmation that perhaps that's why hustlers don't get opportunities in such high-end government offices?
Definitely, because you don't have the connections, the business connection, the political connections. And the Constitution is very clear that we should not discriminate on the basis of one's social economic background.
So you term the multi-billion Ruto's cabinet as a discriminatory one?
Definitely, because how is it that it's not possible to access these spaces when you are not a millionaire or a billionaire? Is it this a key factor that is being considered before one is considered for nomination for any political seats? We want a situation whereby even people who are not known in terms of the political rank and file find themselves just by virtue of their capacity to deliver.
Now to Honorable James Gakuya, another turn to eat for cabinet. Millionaires who have now found their way to power. Gen Z say this is a hijacked revolution by, more specifically, ODM. They've cut deals, political deals, on their blood, and now they're in office. Are we likely to also witness graft cases with the new cabinet in place?
Thank you, Joe. Allow me to salute viewers wherever they are watching us from, and more so those from Embakasi North constituency, because it's just borders here. It is one of those which makes Nairobi County a county. And coming to your concern, the interpretation of the headline may be viewed in two different ways. One, you cannot expect angels to come to fill these positions. These positions are for human beings, and more so those Kenyan citizens that qualify to be nominated for to these particular positions. Number two, the powers to nominate are under one appointing authority, because it is the prerogative of the president to appoint such a cabinet. But he has no mandatory plenary power to give them job, because it is subject to that process of vetting. And at the tail end, then you get to those after that filter, those you can. Now that's why you realize that there is a casualty of one out of the 20. The 21 was Musalia Mudavadi's position, which does not qualify for the vetting, since his position was not terminated. In this case, I would like to tell Kenyans who feels that the appointment of this particular cabinet is just for purpose of eating. Eating is a must, and that's a must, because these are salaried positions. So you cannot expect CS to do a free job in that position. It's a position that you earn $1 million or so.
But eating in this case is meant...
No, as a salary. As a salary. Number two, the deals that actually the agency want to purport that they were cut. Obviously, there's no way that the opposition leader could leave his team of Azimio and join the government without good carrots. That tells you he was first and foremost being compromised, because without his approval, then his team could not have accepted these positions.
Does this display the greedy nature of politicians?
Obviously, it's not new in Kenya. It has been the cycle.
Are you not learning from the Gen Z's push for changes?
Let's go back to the ends of Moi, all the way. Raila has been able to move for an election under particular. He was able to join the after he was, and that is his. I do not know, but behavior. Known that actually the end of an election is not an end of discussion, and that's why after every cycle of an election, he must bring chaos so that there can be a separate discussion of the process. That is it. But that is not anyhow democratic, because killing the witch dog of the people, because the Constitution has given the majority the minority, and the minority has their business in terms of watchdogging the government. And the manner in which now we are being left is like we have no opposition. Yeah? Even those who have been left in Kalonzo Musyoka has no numbers to say anything. They cannot even bite.
Odwar, you serve as the Deputy Executive Director at the Kenya Human Rights Commission. Have politicians learned? Must it cost the blood of Kenyans over 60 dead, at least 60 dead so far, with scores injured, that now they have to come on board and eat, the corrupt dealings that they, engage in while in such positions? Must it cost Kenyans blood for them to get these positions?
It's a very unfortunate situation we find ourselves in, that so many of our young people had to lose their lives for the political class to see sense in having let's say, this kind of situation or platform to maybe close ranks and calm the country in one way or another. But it just tells you that we've not learned, because these things have reoccurred time and again. Because this is not the first time that we are seeing that after every election, we have these fights here and there over contested election results that ultimately lead to a lot of damages in terms of property, lives, and this kind of thing. So it tells you that we have never learned, and it tells you that those in power are only hell-bent on preserving themselves into those positions. And it will take a lot of force and police brutality to ensure that they remain in power. So I think in an ideal situation, and going by the tenets of our democratic governance, it should allow for broad consultations. When you used finance for now the withdrawn finance bill, which was a trigger to most of the things that we saw, there were thousands and thousands of memorandums that were opposed to this particular policy document. But what did the politicians do? They rejected. It's still the utadu mentality by our political class. Now, the fact that it took street demonstrations for politicians to, or the political class to see that something wrong was happening is very unfortunate, and it confirms that we've never moved from our old ways of doing things as much as we've gotten a new constitution in place.
So you feel the reconstituted cabinet fails to meet the demands by the Gen Zs?
Definitely, because what new does it bring? What new does it bring? What commitments?
The opposition leaders on board.
No, that was not
turning it as a government of national unity.
The JNC protest was very clear on what they wanted the current regime to do. To deal with the issues of corruption, to address the issue of unemployment, to deal with the issues of public debt, inclusion, issues of education among the young people, because you could see in the last 5 years, the cost of education has really been running very high. So what commitments, or what is it that the current regime has done to deal with those issues, apart from closing of political ranks, which in most cases have only served to calm the temperatures. But we'll see very soon, people just move on as if nothing happened. And this is why sometimes we are against these quickly constructed what we are calling dialogue or broad-based government to just calm the situation. I think the ultimate test is that with this new arrangement that we have, are they going to still stick to the issues and find a way of addressing these issues? Or, kumetulia, now we move on and it will be business as usual. I think that's where we lose it.
Honorable Gakuya, while the new cabinet members were being sworn in, their vehicles, of course, there are flags that were being mounted on them. And some of them were new vehicles costing over 20 million Kenya shillings. Are we still displaying opulence, you know, misuse of public resources, at a time that even the government's head, that is President William Ruto, has been calling for austerity measures, yet we are seeing new vehicles being bought, of preference, in fact?
Joe, well, let me say, new vehicles cannot be bought without budgets. It tells you there was such a budget to buy those vehicles.
But you are just from the supplementary budget one. You should have cut on that and use vehicles that are there in the ministry.
What I would say is that, in fact, in times like this, when you want people to buy from you, that you are serious on, you are echoing over austerity measures, then action should lead. But if you are fighting with austerity measures, I don't think that we are in scarce of those gasolers. They are in big numbers, and the age does not matter, because a gasoler can survive even 20 years because it's a big engine vehicle. So I don't see any big reason why, if we are serious to do austerity measures, then buying of new vehicles, seriously, in this particular time, is a big joke.
So you castigate the move
I
by
can
the
tell you,
government
this is a very serious joke. If you can say that actually we stop those buildings that actually are ongoing at his house, and those other coming up buildings at the Deputy President's residence, then vehicles should stop. Why? We are not in scarcity of vehicles. And we can even turn back to those small cars if we are serious enough.
So what do you opine here? At what CC should we cap the minister's vehicles?
I can tell you, during Uhuru, when he was a minister for finance, he introduced those small Passats. And I think it's something that our egos cannot allow to go to that direction. But if we are serious to build economy, and if we are serious to fit in the austerity measures, then we should start by example. Otherwise, where else do you want to go and cut? If you cannot cut the gasoline of 20 million and so, where else?
You know, yesterday, while they are being sworn in, clearly you could see new vehicles. And it's barely 2 years since the maiden cabinet had taken over. And 2 years into it, an incoming CS cannot use a vehicle that the previous CS was using. Are we having our priorities wrong from the beginning, just from the start, especially on austerity measures?
This is what we call the double speak, and really it flies in the face of the Gen Zs. We are in a situation whereby you are supposed to demonstrate austerity. But what are we doing? It tells you that there is more than just serving the public. Because these positions then are also used to induce or to make people feel good. And political grandstanding in terms of now this region has acquired and people want to see their people now in new fashion, in new vehicles. You are yet to see the homecomings in these regions, especially where the ODM nominees come from. So I think government should be able. There was a party
already.
Yes.
Your parent at his current home.
So what is this excitement about? We are in a government thing. So I think even Kenyans need to change, and they need to confront some of these things, because if government is saying one thing on the other hand, and saying that we are now going to take measures to reduce unnecessary expenditure, and doing the right opposite. And I think this is why the agencies feel this government is not listening.
Perhaps that's why the president has now been visiting regions that the new CSs are hailing from. He went to the coast immediately. You know, Joho was appointed or nominated. He also went to Kindiki's background. He's now in, still parts of the Mount Kenya. Next week he'll be in Kisii. There is a cabinet member that has also hails from that region. Is this what we call the national unity?
How? How can it be national unity? It's a unity of what? Because the president, as a symbol of national unity, should demonstrate that by how he conducts himself or herself as a symbol of national unity.
It's not the excitement that comes, with the crowds that are there cheering on the president. At least you've given us Hassan Joho. At least you've given us back Kindiki.
What we should be celebrating are strategies that are being put in place to create an enabling environment for people to prosper. But when people celebrate because somebody comes from a region, how do you benefit? And I think this is the advantage that the political class is taking, because they still take advantage of the ignorance of the ordinary mwananchi, that when somebody from my region or my tribe is appointed, then I stand to benefit. But our experience has shown us that you don't stand to get anything. What is important are the policies and the environment that a particular regime or government is able to create for business to spur, to grow. So I think Kenyans need to move away from this patronage kind of behavior and seek to push for people, regardless of their backgrounds in terms of regional ethnicity, but push for individuals who can lead and provide a better environment for this country to grow.
Honorable James Gakuya, when the cabinet was being reconstituted, the deputy president, during an interview previously, said that he was keen to ensure Mount Kenya gets the exact number of CSS that were in the maiden cabinet. What is this issue with Amtuetu? How do Kenyans get to benefit at the end of the day? Is it a regional matter or even, or it should be a national matter? In fact, the deputy president himself has been accused of being tribal, being regional centered rather than being the deputy president of this country. You're his ally. What do you make of it?
The problem is not with the deputy president, but the problem is with the country and the manner we treat our political journeys. Because what happened is that Kenya has a habit and a disease of having what we call election negotiations and alliances. And there are also those after. And both parties, both sides, both in the opposition, both in the government, there is a very serious discussions and signing of memorandums. Those memorandums are based in what we call percentage of performance in your mobilizing of votes.
So you're basically defending
let me tell you,
their shares.
How do you deal with it if it was right at the crafting of that journey? Yes, you have agreed with ANC that they will get that an Western region, that you garner that percent. Well, how does that get implemented? It is after winning, then you have to make sure that there are enough spaces that actually can fit.
So you're echoing DP's remarks of these are politics of shares, shareholding.
In fact, it is not himself. It is the arrangement of the alliance. These alliances at the beginning started with those propagating. And you have signed a memorandum of agreement on how you share the government after you win. Then what do? You must demand for the rights of the people in terms of share. It's only that we should remove that particular burden from the voters, because voters are nowhere in that particular game.
Is that felt by the common Mwananchi? For instance, Mount Kenya had the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, had the Budget Chair, had the Finance Chair. You are the Chair of the Trade Committee. But at the end of the day, Mount Kenya region is the at least most affected region economically. How does that impact the common Mwananchi at the end of the day?
In fact, what I can tell you is that does not count in terms of development. You may find that we have numbers in big number of CSs, but they are toothless. We are here with you when Aris Wahona was in JITA, saying that actually the money was fixed for a certain project for Murang'a County, and that money was driven out of the county without even her knowledge. So it tells you most of them, they are there, but they are not there with their powers at their heart. But you must live with the situation as it is. That's where we are.
Well, at that juncture, we take a short commercial break. But before that, what is captured on our dailies, People Daily, once again, another turn to it for Cabinet. On the Daily Nation, a tale of chaos and uneasy calm. And on the Standard newspaper, Ruto's team of rivals on the Star, how Raila Ruto deal deflated Gen Z demos. When we come back, we'll be reviewing how the Nane demos were. Did they achieve their goal? Remember, they are mounting pressure on President William Ruto to resign. We take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be focusing on that, among other topics that have been making headlines in the course of the week. Stay tuned.